Hey y'all, welcome to the shop. Today we're going to talk about piston rings, specifically piston ring filing, why you should do it, how to do it, and I'm going to introduce you to a couple cool tools that makes my job a whole lot easier doing it. So yeah, piston rings, these guys here, we're going to talk about, let me zoom in, we're going to talk about that gap. You got to file that to an exact specification, down to 1 to 2 thousandths of an inch difference can make a huge impact on performance. So why do we do this? Well, you got to have a gap in there because when the engine heats up, things expand. This piston ring has to have room to move, to grow and contract. So if you have zero gap or too tight of a gap when things heat up, things need a place to expand. If there's not a gap there, something's got to give, and guess what's going to give? The piston rings, and that's not good for your engine or performance. If you have too wide of a gap on these things, it's not. You're basically your performance is going to suffer. Engine compression is going to be down. You're going to have blow by. It's not going to perform as well as you want. So that gap size is very critical. Like I said, even down to 1 to 2 thousandths of an inch change in the gap can make a big difference. Also, your piston bore. Let's say there's a variation of even 1/1000th of an inch difference in the piston bore. That's why you'll want to file these rings to a specific cylinder bore in your block. So I'll walk you through that here in a minute. Let me get the camera turned around. I'll show you what I'm doing, and we'll go from there. All right, so here's the setup I've got going on. Pistons here, JE Pistons, these rings will be going on. And like I say, the rings were supplied to me by JE Pistons, and they had a recommendation on ring gaps. And for your top ring, for my application, they're recommending, there's a formula they give you, but essentially mine is just under 19 thousandths of an inch. The second ring gap is going to be just over 21 thousandths. So got the rings laid out there, and the cylinder bores they'll be going in. These are the top rings. And over here is the block. So really the first step is to grab a ring, put it down in the bore. It'll be going in, and measure the existing gap. Once you know what the existing gap is, then we know how much we need to file off to get that 19 thousandths gap we're looking for. So let me turn the camera around. I'll pop one of these in the cylinder bore, and I'll show you how to go about that. Okay, so I'm going to grab the piston ring that's going in cylinder number 6. Like I said, this hasn't been filed at all. I'm going to get him started down in there. I've oiled the cylinder just a little bit just to kind of help things out, but I'll hold the one edge and kind of get him started on there. Now, what you want that ring to go in there nice and square, so it's equal distance down from the deck surface. For that, I'm using this cool tool here, essentially by Proform. Essentially, it just pushes that ring down a set amount from the deck surface. And then what I can do is go in there and measure the gap on the existing gap with my feeler gauge. Now, let me zoom in there a little bit and show you. These rings are actually, there's not going to be any gap on them at all. It's hard to see, but you can just see it up in this area here. But there is no gap, and that was expected. These are file to fit rings. But I just want to show you, some rings would have a little bit of a gap. Let's say you measured, 10 thousandths of an inch gap, and you're after 19 thousandths gaps. You know that, hey, when you take this back off and put it on the filer over here, you need to take off 9 thousandths. So let me pop him out, and then I'll turn the camera around and show you the machine by Proform that I'll use to file this gap off. So. Okay, here's a fixture I'll be using to file these piston ring gaps. This is made by Proform. It's a real slick unit. It's battery powered. It's rechargeable. Makes it super portable. Let me walk around here. Essentially, I've already got the piston ring installed on there. It's held in place by this set screw, And then one other feature is it has this little eccentric cam here. That allows you to kind of tweak the piston ring so that the end of the ring remains parallel to the cutting surface. And that's real important. You don't want to, if you come over here, what you want to make sure when you're filing that surface down, you're filing it parallel. You don't want to, come in here and do something like that. So this fixture does a real good job of that. So you clamp it down, you move it right up to the cutting surface there, and then you come in here to your dial indicator gauge and zero it out. Now, I know I've got to take 19 thousandths off, so the nice thing about this is you move that in and out, it reads exactly how much will be going in that direction. But let me turn the camera down here real quick, and I'll give you a little demonstration. It's kind of hard to see everything, but I'll turn him on. And then so I didn't take it all, everything off. They're real slow going, so, zoom in here. So I've taken off about 5 thousandths of an inch. Okay, so I'm not going to bore you with the entire filing process of that cylinder number 4, but I already had cylinder number 2 finished up. So let me pop him in there real quick, and get him down in there again. Him in there, use the squaring up tool to press him down in, and now I think you'll get a little better idea. But zoom in there, now you can see, let me get some light on the subject. You can see there's a bit of a gap now on that end of that ring, just right up there at the top. So then what you do, just to verify, you needed to take off, 18 or 19 thousandths. You come in here with your feeler gauge. I'm on 18, and 18 just slides right in there. And I know it's hard to see, but anyway, that's what it'll look like. That's what 18.9 thousandths of a gap looks like. All right. Well, as you can see, it's kind of a tedious process. File off a little bit, put it in the cylinder bore, measure it. You're going to go back and forth several times on that, but this tool really cuts down on that. If you had a mechanical one where you're sitting there rotating and filing, you're going to put it in and out of this cylinder bore several times. The dial indicator on this unit really kind of speeds that process up, and you're going to be doing this 16 times for 16 piston rings. So that adds up some time, but well worth the time spent. Just take your time doing it. It's very important, very critical part of the engine assembly process. Hopefully I've given you a real quick overview. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. And again, feel free to like, comment, and share the video if you liked it. I appreciate it. So, you guys have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.